Magandang buhay mga bata! Tara, samahan ninyo akong matuto kasama si
Teacher Aika, your online teacher. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit the notification bell for more videos. Thank you! Matatag Curriculum, Science Grade 4, Quarter 2, Lesson 8. Our topic for today is about food chains. This is Teacher Aika, your online teacher. Let's start. Learning competency and objectives. The learners draw a simple food chain using living things from the Philippines and label them as herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Number 1, draw a food chain and a food web using living things from the Philippines. Number 2, label organisms in the food chain as herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Number 3, identify the relationships among the different trophic levels in a food chain. Number 4, trace the flow of energy in an ecosystem. And number 5, explain the effect of human activities on the balance in a food chain or food web. Let us have first a short review. Directions: cross it out. Analyze the 5 sets of animals to identify which one does not belong to the group. Cross out the word that has different food eaten. Number 1, dog, pig, bird, tiger. The answer is tiger. The others are omnivores or herbivores, but a tiger is strictly a carnivore. Number 2, pig, goat, horse, and cow. The answer is pig. The others are herbivores, but pigs are omnivores. Number 3, tiger, lion, cat, and snake. The answer is snake. The others are mammals, but a snake is a reptile and only eats meat. Number 4, cat, monkey, duck, and deer. The answer is duck. The others are mammal, but a duck is a bird and eats a different diet. Number 5, bear, frog, wolf, and lizard. The answer is lizard. The others are mammals, but a lizard is a reptile and has a distinct diet. What did you have for breakfast today? What does eating breakfast do for our bodies? And where do you think the energy from the food come from? And how does energy coming from the sun being transferred from one organism to another? Unlocking content area vocabulary. Rearrange the letters to form the correct word describing the following statements. First, an organism like a plant that makes its own food using sunlight through photosynthesis. The correct answer is producer. Second, organisms that eat plants or other animals to get energy. The answer is consumers. Third, organisms like fungi and bacteria that break down dead plants and animals to recycle nutrients. The answer is decomposer. Fourth, a sequence that shows how energy flows from one organism to another through eating and being eaten. The answer is food chain. Fifth, a complex network of interconnected food chains showing multiple pathways of energy flow in an ecosystem. The answer is food web. Subtopic number 1, food chain. What is a food chain? A food chain is a simplified diagram that shows how nutrients and energy move through an ecosystem. It usually shows an organism series in an orderly manner, where one organism provides nourishment for the one after it. Trophic levels. In a basic food chain, organisms are categorized into different trophic levels based on their position in the chain. First is producers, next is consumers, and third is decomposers. Now, let's define one by one. Producers, organisms that can produce their own food. They get energy from an abiotic source. Most producers get their energy directly from the sun. They are important to the whole food chain because they are the original source of energy that is then passed between other organisms. Consumers. Consumers are organisms within trophic levels in a food chain that obtain energy and nutrients by feeding on other organisms. They can be categorized into different groups based on their feeding habits and position in the food chain. Types of consumer. Primary. The primary consumers are also known as herbivores. These organisms feed directly on producers. Next is secondary. These are carnivores that feed on primary consumers. They obtain their energy and nutrients by consuming herbivores. Third is tertiary. These are carnivores that feed on secondary consumers. They obtain energy and nutrients by consuming other carnivores. Let's try to look at this one. First is primary consumers. These animals eat plants or herbivores. Examples, rabbits and deer. Next is secondary. These animals eat the primary consumers, carnivores or omnivores. Examples, snake and wolf. The last one is tertiary. These are the top predators that eat secondary consumers. Example, eagle, and bear. Next is decomposers. The decomposers are microorganisms that can break down large molecules into smaller parts. They recycle the nutrients back into the ecosystem. Decomposers include fungi, bacteria, and some types of insects. Types of food chain. First is aquatic or water. These food chains occur in aquatic ecosystems such as lakes, rivers, ponds, and oceans involving organisms that live in water. Next is terrestrial or land. These food chains occur on land and involve organisms that inhabit terrestrial ecosystem such as grasslands, deserts, and forests. Here's the summary. Food chain shows the transfer of matter in the energy in the ecosystem. There are two types of food chains, terrestrial and aquatic. There are trophical levels in a food chain, and these are the following: producers, consumers, and decomposers. The consumers in the food chain has different types. They can be considered as herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Worked example, letter A. 2 is better than 1. Make a table with 2 columns. On the first column, write the plants. And on the second column, write the animals that can be found in the surrounding area of Monfort Bat Cave. Worked example, A. 2 is better than 1. The island of Samal, part of Davao del Norte province, is off the coast of Mindanao. In this island is the Monfort Bat Cave, which is approximately 245 feet or 75 meters long and has 5 entrances. Bats cover 75% of its ceilings and walls, an estimated 1.8 million bats. The largest known population of Geoffroy's rosette fruit bats in the world are overloading Monfort Bat Cave on the Philippine Samal Island. Geoffroy's rosette fruit bats feed on fruits and nectars. Their role as pollinators and seed dispersers is essential in sustaining Philippine forests, including such important commercial fruits as durian. Each bat consumes 1.5 to 3 times its body weight nightly in fruit and nectar. This colony could consume 550 tons or 500,000 kilograms of nectar from durian and other trees, pollinating an incredible number of flowers. Worldwide, cave-dwelling bats are in alarming decline due to human disturbance and destruction of their cave roosts. In some areas, including Samal Island, bats are captured and eaten by humans. Colonies like the one in Monfort's Bat Cave are now rare and in urgent need of protection. Their loss would endanger the health of forests and human economies. The bat's colony should be able to survive natural predators like crows, rats, 10 feet or 3 meters pythons, and occasional monitor lizards, just as bat populations do elsewhere. Untamed dogs and cats, however, also seem to do bad hunting at Monfort Bat Cave. Letter B, the kingdom. Here's a table to classify the animals living in Monfort Bat Cave based on their feeding habits. First column, animals. Second column, feeding habits. First is bats, insectivorous or frugivorous. Crows, omnivores. Rats, omnivores. Pythons, carnivores. Monitor lizards, carnivores. Untamed dogs, carnivores or omnivores. Untamed cats, carnivores. Here's the explanation. Insectivores eat insects like some bats. Frugivores eat fruits like certain species or bats. Omnivores eat both plants and animals like crows and rats. And fourth, carnivores eat other animals like pythons, monitor lizards, dogs, and cats. Letter C, construction site. Create a simple food chain with at least 3 organisms representing the producer, first-order consumer, and second-order consumer. Here's the simple food chain. Producer, mango tree that produces fruits. First-order consumer, Geoffroy's rosette fruit bats. They eat mangoes. Second-order consumer, monitor lizard. Preys on bats. Here are the processing questions. Number 1, what is the significance of the Monfort Bat Cave on Samal Island? It serves as a vital roosting site for millions of bats, supporting biodiversity and balancing the local ecosystem. Number 2, how does the feeding behavior of Geoffroy's rosette fruit bats contribute to the local food chain in the Monfort Bat Cave? These bats disperse seeds through their fruit consumption, helping regenerate forests and support plant growth. Number 3, why are the population of bats declining? How does this affect the natural balance of the ecosystem? Bat populations are declining due to human disturbance, habitat destruction, and hunting. This leads to reduced seed dispersal and insect control, destabilizing the ecosystem. Number 4, why is it crucial to consider the preservation of bat colonies for the overall health and sustainability of the ecosystem's food chain? Bats play key roles as pollinators, seed dispersers, and insect controllers, maintaining ecological balance and supporting agricultural productivity. Without them, ecosystem would face significant disruptions. Next, linking life from plants to predators. A. Construct a food chain using the following organisms: eagle, snake, frog, bird, and locusts. Let's try. Grass, producer, provides energy by photosynthesis. Locust is the first-order consumer. They eat grass or herbivore. Next is frog, second-order consumer, eats locust or carnivore. Snake or third-order consumer, eats frogs or carnivore. Last is eagle or the top predator. Eat snakes, they are carnivore. Here's the classification of each role in the food chain. Producers, grass, captures energy from sunlight through photosynthesis. Number 2, primary consumer, locusts, eats the producer or the herbivore. Number 3, secondary consumer, frog, eats the primary consumer, carnivore. Number 4, tertiary consumer, snake, eats the secondary consumer or carnivore. And number 5, quaternary consumer, eagle, eats the tertiary consumer and it is the top predator. Describe the chain below by answering the given questions. Number 1, what are the different organisms shown in the food chain? Producers, phytoplankton. Consumers, zooplankton, small fish, mackerel, mahi-mahi, and large shark. Decomposers, bacteria. Number 2, which are the producers, consumers, or the primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, and decomposers in the food chain? Answers: producers, phytoplankton, make energy using sunlight. Primary consumers, zooplankton, eat phytoplankton. Secondary consumers, small fish, eat zooplankton. Tertiary consumers, mackerel, mahi-mahi, eat small fish. Quaternary consumers, large shark, top predator, eats tertiary consumers. And last, decomposers, bacteria, break down dead organisms. Number 3, which organism is at the top of the food chain, and why do you think so? The large shark is at the top of the food chain because it is an apex predator, meaning it has no natural predators and feeds on organisms below. Example, mackerel and mahi-mahi. Number 4, trace the path of energy from the sun to a top predator in the food chain. The answer: sun, phytoplankton, zooplankton, small fish, mackerel or mahi-mahi, and large shark. Next, circle of life, animals on a feeding spree. Create your food chain using pictures of animals. Paste it on a paper plate. Illustrate how energy flows in the food chain by showing the correct position of the arrowhead where it is pointing. So this is the example of your activity output. Subtopic number 2, food web. What is a food web? A food web shows how all the food chains in an ecosystem are connected. This is because each organism in an ecosystem occupies a specific position in the food chain or web through trophic level. Trophic levels. First, producers. They make their own food. Primary consumers, mostly herbivores. Secondary consumers eat primary consumers, can be omnivores or carnivores. Tertiary consumers eats primary and secondary consumers. Apex predators have no predators other than humans. Changes in the food web. Nearly every species of animals is dependent on number of other species for survival. Currently, human activity is damaging the natural habits of many animals. This will not affect the animals in the area, but it could have far-reaching effects on the rest of the species in the food web. In the population of a species declines dramatically, how might this affect the other species that depend upon it? The organisms in a food web are highly dependent on each other. Even a small change in the number of producers or consumers can have dramatic effects on the rest of the food chain. What might happen if there were no producers? The removal of the producers would cause the collapse of the entire food web. Effects of human activities on the balance in a food chain or food web. First, deforestation reduces the number of producers, affecting herbivores and predators. Second, hunting and overfishing decreases populations of animals, disrupting predator-prey relationships. Third, pollution harms aquatic and terrestrial organisms, leading to imbalances. Fourth, introduction of invasive species alters competition and can eliminate native species. Fifth, climate change affects habitats, altering the availability of food sources. Analyze the given picture. Trace how many food chains are interconnected to each other. So the image shows a food web with multiple interconnected food chains. By analyzing it, there are at least 5 distinct food chains visible. For example, number 1, grass, grasshopper, frog, snake, and hawk. Number 2, grass, rabbit, and fox. Number 3, grass, mouse, and owl. Number 4, grass, grasshopper, bird, and hawk. Number 5, grass, mouse, and hawk. Processing questions. Number 1, what are the different organisms you see in the image? Can you group them based on what they eat? Producers, consumers, or decomposers? How many producers? Herbivores and carnivores. Organisms in the image. Producers, grass. Herbivores, grasshopper, rabbit, and mouse. Carnivores, snake, bird, frog, owl, hawk, and fox. Its count: 1 producer, 3 herbivores, 6 carnivores. Number 2, following the arrows, trace the path of energy from the sun to a top predator. What happens to the energy at each level? Path example: sun, grass, producer, grasshopper, herbivore, frog as secondary consumer, and hawk as the top predator. At each level, energy transfer. Only about 10% of energy is passed to the next level. The rest is lost as heat or used for metabolism. Energy diminishes. Less energy is available at higher trophic levels, which limits the number of top predators. Number 3, decomposers are not explicitly shown in the image, but they play a crucial role. Why are they important for the food web and the overall ecosystem? Decomposers like fungi and bacteria are very important because they break down dead plants, animals, and waste. This returns nutrients to the soil, which helps plants grow and keeps the food web going. They also prevent waste from piling up and keep the ecosystem healthy. Even though we don't always see them, decomposers are key to keeping life balanced. Number 4, identify the food chains that compose the food web in the figure. Sun, phytoplankton, zooplankton, small fish, mackerel or mahi-mahi, large shark. Number 5, what do you think will happen if there is an excessive hunting of snakes? If snakes are excessively hunted, their prey, such as rats and other small animals, might increase in population. This could lead to an imbalance in the food chain, potentially causing overgrazing or destruction of crops and disrupting the ecosystem. Number 6, what is the difference between a food chain and a food web? A food chain is a simple, straight path showing how energy flows from one organism to another, like grass, grasshopper, frog, snake, and hawk. A food web, however, is a more complex and shows how multiple food chains connect, illustrating all the feeding relationships in an ecosystem. While food chains are straightforward, food webs provide a more accurate picture of how organisms interact and depend on each other in nature. Group activity Food Frenzy. Number 1, form a group with 3 members, then brainstorm ideas and key concepts you want to include in your song or poem. This may include the roles of producers, consumers, and decomposers in food webs. 2. Create a song or poem summarizing your learning about food webs and how environmental issues affect them. Number 3. Perform your song or recite your poem in front of the class. And number 4, after the presentation of all groups, answer the questions below. Processing questions. Number 1, during the presentations, did you notice any actions or solutions suggested for helping to protect all organisms from environmental harm? Number 2, what are some ideas you remember? Share your answers to your classmates. Lesson activity, Symphonies of food webs and environmental woes. 1. Research a specific ecosystem. Example, a forest, grassland, farm, sea, and draw a detailed food web diagram below. If you know how to use digital tools, use it in creating the food web. 2. List down the food chains presented in the food web. 3. Write in the proper column the names of the organisms in the food web. Learners' takeaways. Check one of the boxes describing how the lesson helped you attain the focus points intended for the lesson. Reflection on learning 1-minute paper. Using the graphic organizer, reflect on your learning by creating a 1-minute paper by answering the questions. First question, what are the 2 most meaningful things you have learned in the lesson? Second, what questions remain in your mind? Third question, is there anything you didn't understand? Formative assessment. A. Multiple choice. Read carefully the questions and choose the letter of the correct answer. Number 1. Which organism in the food chain below is a producer? Rice, mouse, snake, and eagle. A. Snake, B. Mouse, C. Rice, or D. Eagle. Number 2. Which statement is true about the transfer of energy in the trophic levels? A. If you eat organisms that feed on plants, you will have the highest energy in the trophic levels. B. Only 10% of energy in an organism is transferred to the next trophic level. C. The amount of energy transferred increases as it goes up the trophic levels. D. The transfer of energy from one trophic level to the next is very efficient. Number 3. Which of the following is the correct food chain, producer to consumers? A. Grass, snake, farmhouse. B. Snake, grass, farmhouse. C. Farmhouse, snake, grass. Or D. Grass, caterpillar, bird. Number 4. What is the other name for a primary consumer? A. Autotroph, B. Omnivore, C. Herbivore, or D. Carnivore. Number 5. Where can you find the predator in the energy pyramid? A. Third level, B. Middle, C. Apex, or D. Base. Number 6 to 7. Create 2 food chains from the following organisms: mouse, duck, caterpillar, rice plant, human, snake, freshwater, clam, hawk, and chicken. For questions 9 to 10, refer to the food web below. Number 11. How many producers are there in the food web? A1, B2, C3, or D4? Number 12. Which organism in the food web consumes greatest number of organisms? A. Dragonfly, B. Fish, C. Shrimp, D. Larva. 13. Which trophic level has the greatest amount of energy? A. Pondweeds, B. Larva, C. Dragonfly, or D. Fish? Part C, short essay. Analyze the impact of urbanization, example, construction of houses, buildings, shopping centers, and roads on the balance of food chains and food webs in ecosystems with specific reference to the Philippines. And here is the answer key for Part A and Part B. Good luck, kids! And that wraps up today's lesson. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for tuning in.